Nothing to do with climate. The climate's been about the same in Western Oregon for 500 years. How they got away with claiming that climate was causing wildfires for 20 years and successfully did it has been debilitating. It's caused probably trillions, but certainly tens of billions of dollars worth of damage. It's damaged thousands of lives. It's killed millions of wildlife. It's polluted the air significantly for months on end. None of that stuff existed over the first 40 years of my life. It's all been created, and the environmental law industry has created the regulations that they litigate with. They've been very successful, but it's been extremely damaging to the environment and to the rest of us.
This is Climate Debrief, brought to you by the CO2 Coalition. I'm Angela Wheeler. I'm honored to welcome Dr. Bob Zybach, a PhD environmental scientist, historian, writer, researcher, and photographer with deep roots in Oregon's forests. Dr. Zybach earned his PhD in environmental sciences from Oregon State University in 2003, with a bachelor's in forest recreation, a master's in oral histories, and his doctorate as a historical ecologist. He also ran a successful reforestation business in Oregon for 20 years. Dr. Zybach's expertise centers on forest and fire history, reforestation planning, endangered species habitat, and the long-term impacts of land management policies. He's the program manager of the Oregon Websites and Watersheds Project and a valued member of the CO2 Coalition. He is also the editor of the National Wildfire Alliance newsletter. Dr. Zybach's work challenges conventional narratives by grounding today's wildfire and forest challenges in historical evidence and on-the-ground experience. Dr. Zybach, welcome to Climate Debrief. Thank you so much for lending your expertise to our audience.
Well, thank you, Angela. It's good to be here.
Your clear 5-step reforestation planning outline is very practical. How can communities or agencies best apply these steps now? And can you go through these steps with us?
Yes, the way they could apply them now is we know how to do these. We did these for generations very, very successfully. From 1952, when we had in Western Oregon, when we had about a 30,000 acre fire in Western Oregon, until 1987, when we had about a 90,000 acre fire in Western Oregon. In that 35-year period, we had one single fire in excess of 10,000 acres. Now we have hundreds of thousands of acres almost annually. Certainly the last 5 years, they've exploded. So what we used to do is what's outlined here. Keep subbasin roads and trail access open. We've created, Clinton created the roadless plan in 2002. It's a de facto wilderness. We created the wilderness in 1960s, but certainly in 1983 they're expanded. And we've been purposefully abandoning the trails and destroying the roads. When there's been a road to a rural area, we have paid taxpayer dollars to take the road out. We need good road and good trail access like we had for 10,000 years. Creating artificial wilderness and roadless areas has been one of the direct problems that have created these wildfires and rural unemployment and massive air pollution. Site prep and weed control. After an area is logged or after it is burned, we used to go in and remove fuels, salvage the trees. If there were weeds there, we would spray them with herbicides or sometimes hand pull them, whatever was needed to clean up the site and make it ready to plant seedlings. And we did that with impunity and with excellent results for decades. My crews burned about 20,000 acres of prescribed fires. We never had a single acre go out of control, and we just had really good results for the following crop of trees. Third is species planting and seeding patterns. It would really depend. They talk about restoring the environment, and then they put in an industrial plantation. They plant trees in rows at very close proximity to one another, 8 and 10 foot spaces. It's basically a farm type of farming approach. But if you restore the land to the way the Native Americans had it, the Indians had it, you would have large openings for oak savanna, for bare grass prairies along the ridge lines, for camas meadows, for huckleberry fields. There were hundreds of acres. And so these were fuel breaks. They were also recreational. They were also provided food and fiber for people. They could be developed into crops. But more importantly, they're a critical wildlife habitat, a safety from these wildfires that are killing millions of animals. So then seedling maintenance and replacement, you do have animals come in, kill the trees. You have weeds move in. Trees are too close together. They need to be thinned out. So that's a matter of after plantation is done, whether it's you're planting bunch grass or Douglas fir or huckleberries or oak, maintaining those seedlings and replacing the ones that are killed by animals or wind throw or something of that nature for the first few years is a critical time towards making sure that the forest is reestablished or the landscape patterns are established the way you'd like. Then plant or fuel management. We have a lot of problems with these plantations that created contiguous canopies. That means contiguous fuels. So when these fires burn, now they go 80 or 100,000 acres instead of 8 or 100 acres. Because the fuels are contiguous, they're in canopies, that kills about 100% of the trees. When the fire gets up into the top of the trees and fans through the stand or the forest or the drainage, whatever the area is, it kills all of them. So maintaining the fuels means keeping the roads and trails open, thinning the crowns out, maintaining open areas that have been planned for that purpose. And if we do that, we will put a significant ending to these catastrophic fires, and we will also create a lot of jobs that produce tax revenues rather than require them, increase safety for local communities, but also increase jobs and income for local communities, including schools and roads. So we've done it before, we know how to do it. These are kind of the steps for doing it right, and we just stopped doing it on our federal lands, and we have predictable fires as a result.
Dr. Zybach, this is based on the presentation that I watched. What human-centered successes from the past, like inmate crews or early reforestation efforts, could we scale up today?
That's interesting. The crews from the inmate crews did a lot of work in the woods, but then they were stopped because we were told that they were interfering with local competition. And then beginning probably in the early 50s for reforestation, but certainly in Germany hundreds of years ago with just forest management, we had local people managing the land, and that was the law. The 1897 Organic Act said that the forests that created our national forest, basically, they would be managed locally for the benefit of the American people, that the young stands would be kept healthy, just the opposite of what we're doing now. That law has never been changed, but we had local people doing the work. Now, since the early 80s, for the last 40 years, 2 generations, the Forest Service started putting out low bid, short-term contracts, and most of the work is being done by migrant workers. The Department of Agriculture says 40 to 60% of them are illegal. They started being busted in the early 80s, and that destroyed the local businesses. So now we do not have local businesses or local people or local families as we did for 10,000 years managing the local environment. We have regulators from Washington, D.C. and lawyers from the big towns hiring farm worker crews under really debased conditions. They live in slave camps, they're underpaid, a lot of the work's done under the table, and that's the federal government once again paying for that. So restoration of the law that the local people will be producing products for the benefit of the American people and actively managing our forest to keep them safe and our wild animals safe and our air clean and our water pure. That's the law, and if we restore that, we will go back to being in good shape with our relationship with the land as we were for thousands of years. Well, it is doable. We've done it. Our parents and grandparents showed us how, and all we have to do is do what they taught us how to do. And unfortunately, they've mostly passed on, and they've been replaced by computer modelers.
Yeah, well, yes, and it's also interesting that what you're saying here is the main problems are regulations.
Yes.
Not climate, not CO2, regulations.
Yep.
Yeah. So
it's got nothing to do with climate. The climate's been about the same in Western Oregon for 500 years. How they got away with claiming that climate was causing wildfires for 20 years and successfully did it has been debilitating. It's caused probably trillions, but certainly tens of billions of dollars worth of damage. It's damaged thousands of lives. It's killed millions of wildlife. It's polluted the air significantly for months on end. None of that stuff existed over the first 40 years of my life. It's all been created, and the environmental law industry has created the regulations that they litigate with. They've been very successful, but it's been extremely damaging to the environment and to the rest of us. And it has nothing to do with climate change. That was how they were able to get away with that story for 20 years is still a mystery.
what one or two changes could make the biggest difference in preventing future catastrophes in the next decade?
The principal difference would be and it would be difficult, a major shift in public awareness in our schools, our universities, that dead and dying wood are not critical elements in a healthy forest. They are signs of a dead and dying forest. They invented that in the 1970s to stop logging, like saying snags, which are standing dead trees, were critical habitat for some animal or another. Blackback woodpeckers, they actually is a big one they use. Then down wood, when a tree is uprooted and falls, it becomes a log, and so large woody debris is what the government called it, LWD, LSR, late successional reserve. So they've got all these acronyms that they've created to justify this idea that somehow dead trees, overstock stands, logs on the ground were all healthy signs and necessary to build the soil. And people such as myself were saying, no, that's wrong. That's how you build up fuels. Dead and dying trees are signs of a dead and dying forest. If you do that, they're going to have massive wildfires. And we've had the massive wildfires. Those corrections were pretty easy, actually. You didn't have to be a scientist. You just had to be familiar with forestry. But ignored. And now we've got about 100 million acres, enough work for thousands of people, tens of thousands of people for a couple decades. And it could be done profitably to produce tax money. But all those snags, all those dead trees, millions of acres of them need to be removed. And the 5 steps on reforestation, if that was implemented, we would have a wonderful environment, a wonderful work situation, rebuilt communities, and future generations would be facing what our generation did. We had beautiful forests and good work and good schools and things from World War II until spotted owl in the 90s in the forested counties of the western U.S. particularly. So that would make the biggest difference, is just restore common sense, restore legitimate science, not modeling, to managing our forests using experienced individuals such as Wendling or the Columbus Day Storm, people that know what they're doing locally in the community, making decisions for managing the resources. That would be the big change that would be needed. And we seem to be moving in that direction again, but it was an abrupt change in this direction in the early 90s. and it could be abruptly changed again with the proper leadership.
You concluded in your April 2022 Oregon Fish and Wildlife Journal article that returning to active management of public forests, including treating flammable snags, could largely mitigate these predictable fires. What practical steps do you see as most effective right now for turning those repeated historical lessons into real progress?
I'll say the practical step would be, number one, get rid of the Equal Access to Justice Act access to large non-government organizations, NGOs, would be a first step. Second would be to introduce legislation. It'd have to go through Congress to reverse a number of these arbitrary rulings regarding wildlife habitat. NEPA and ESA critical habitat designations have been largely wonderful for the legal profession, but that's what's killed our forests, killed our wildlife, killing our rural communities. So those two steps have to be done by Congress really to get a rapid change, but long past due.
Dr. Zybach, for listeners inspired by your presentation, where can they learn more about your anthology, maps, or ongoing work with Oregon Websites and Watersheds Project and the National Wildfire Institute?
Well, the National Wildfire Institute has been renamed the National Wildfire Alliance. We've been around for 15 years. We can be found easily. We've got a website and a newsletter that I edit. So NWA, National Wildfire Alliance, and Solutions is part of the word, but we've got a website and the donate button that we've just been able to get together. And we've got an active program going to address these wildfire problems. On Oregon Websites and Watersheds Project, that's a 30-year-old educational project. That's orww.org. Again, it's online. And Amazon is where I sell my books. I've got 4 anthologies and a fine arts book and a photography book and my dissertation. I published that just to make a point with the people that were avoiding it. So Amazon, ORWW, and NWA would be the channels, and Google.
What do you think the motivations are of the Sierra Club and other environmental organizations that are working against the fire management?
Well, it's very clear. Money. They are really into making a lot of money. What it is, it's most of those organizations are covers for groups of lawyers. So if you look and see how their budget, they're constantly asking for donations to fight the timber industry or to save a whale or whatever the method is. But underneath that is a battery of lawyers that are largely paid for by tax deductions and by Equal Access to Justice Act. So when the Environmental Law Institute in 1969 collaborated with NEPA to create this situation, I think they might have been idealistic at that time. But within 2 or 3 years, people like Bill Hagenstein and others got wise to them and said, this is a racket. These people are lining up to create power for themselves. They're almost entirely Democrats, so it's you can say it's political rather than altruistic, and they've been extremely successful. The cost to the environment has been these wildfires, unemployment, dead animals, and so on, that list. But the amount of money that they are paid is quite often a nonprofit is paying $300,000 or $600,000 or $800,000 a year to one of their groups, and the largest part of the budget for most of these organizations are the lawyers. So it's a cover for the environmental law industry, and the nonprofits are just a cover group more than anything. It's not the organizations themselves; it's how they're organized, and it's the lawyers and the officers that are running them and benefiting by massive amounts of money from unwitting U.S. taxpayers at a great cost to the environment. So Their motivation is money and power, just like everybody's, and they've been very successful at it.
Thank you for joining us on Climate Debrief. Executive producer is Angela Wheeler. Producers, Ethan Audie and Scott Wheeler. You can find more episodes of Climate Debrief at co2coalition.org.